ready for this? Yeah. So I will say I miss having the microphone on, and I imagine the sound quality has decreased over the last couple of videos. I am going to need to figure that out, but I'm not going to do that right now. So I'm just going to jump in with this fantastic topic. And yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Yeah, let's see okay, so we're on page 143 and I'm just looking. It's funny. I was looking at it and I was like, "Oh, this is really daunting," but it's really only about a page. So, and the subject matter is juicy. Yeah, these next couple of pages, I kind of want to get through them and move into the techniques and exercises and really get into the fourth hub. I'm really looking forward to the fourth hub. I've been thinking a lot about it because I'm thinking, it's been a minute and it's been for me this cycle of my own practice of reading the book live in this forum and doing my own practice like in my life has it's really activating. And I will say, and this is probably a good thing to even bring up before we get into this topic because this one can have a lot of charge. Is that what we're not like the thing about a Parinama practice, and that probably makes it really unappealing to a lot of people, is that it's not a final destination. And and the thing about it really relates to having a very different relationship with the quality of your life and the way it feels like to be alive. And I really understand. I practiced this. I participated in this for decades. Was the hope that there would be one thing I could do that would change the way my life felt, because I think it's perfectly relatable, is that you get a stimulating experience like a trip, falling in love, getting a new thing, a new job, an accomplishment or whatever, and it's like, oh my god, I broke through. I've had clients be like, I figured out how to have sustained bliss, and I was like, yeah, it's gonna end. They're like, no, it won't. And then that's it. That like but listen, I'm laughing with, this is a laughing with. But the idea, okay, so it's like all, it's kind of like, okay, if I get my body looks a certain way, if I get the right partner, if I get the money, it's like, I'm going to get away from this, like the feeling is going to change. And the thing is, I think everyone can relate to this at least on some level, is the achievement providing actually, like, it's like you hit the achievement and then there's this kind of like cresting of hopelessness of seeing that didn't deliver relief from kind of like the implied sense of like value, and being able to transcend the sense of self, like, and it's like, I want to feel good in myself. And so if I change something like the way I look, that's going to solve that. Or if it's like, I want to keep myself safe from threats, so I'm going to, stockpile resources and do things that, one thing, and I don't want to give too much identifying information here, is that I think it would be for some folks who are kind of, maybe not wealthy in the conventional sense, and who are still in the position of like aspiring. I think it would be surprising how the people who are like objectively identified as wealthy feel very much at risk. And because the thing about money is that it's a perception, and there's a certain aspect of it that's like pretty, objective as far as meeting survival needs. But I mean, what it really means to be able to put yourself, like, set yourself up in an arrangement where you're safe from any threats to your health and to your physical safety and protecting the people that you love. There's a point where it actually, that becomes like that actually metastasizes and becomes something that like robs us of being able to ever feel safe. But anyway, okay, I'm actually gonna like track myself in here. I'm gonna bring myself in. I'm just gonna start reading here, and then we're gonna see where this goes. Because 6 minute unstructured preamble. So that's what you get for that's your that's your that's what is it called? That's your tariff or whatever, the ticket or for entry. What is that called? Like what it like I don't know. It's like I think it's just like cost of entry or whatever. Yeah, that's your so there's that. Okay, so inner and outer critic. Let's do it. Okay, so most of us are familiar and struggle with internalized negative voices, either the ones in our own heads or the ones in the heads of people we love and care about. This inner voice is a continuation of someone who was harsh with us before it was physically or developmentally possible to protect ourselves. This inner critic shames, inspects for flaws, and levies judgment. I give take a deep breath. The programming of this voice happened before conscious memories could form. Anyone who deals with a critical internal narrative tends to be unable to imagine life without it. When there's adaptation in their third hub, there will be an internalized critic, and its narrative is an adaptation, meaning that it's not an absolute truth. So I'm going to repeat this again. That voice is an adaptation. It is not you. It is a survival strategy. And okay, I don't want to like repeat or do like a redundancy here, but one thing I want to say is this protection is trying to get on the same page as the critic, as a survival strategy, trying to gain agreement. And it's less at the age this is happening, the ability to be self-sufficient is absolutely impossible. And so to bond with our caregivers, an attempt to have the commonality, almost like a shared enemy, something to bond over, and even in a way to preempt the pain of being judged or shamed, is that this becomes a protection. Because if you beat anyone else to the punch, theoretically, the idea of and this is where actually self-awareness does work. This is like a distorted version of self-awareness, being able to, like, your own awareness of yourself, being able to preempt someone else's like perception or whatever. So here, we'll do another one of these. This is heavy. All right. There are two predominant directions of operation for this adaptation: inward facing and outward facing. If you have an inward facing internal critic, you'll tend to be hard on yourself and to take more than your share of responsibility for the actions of others while holding unrealistic and unfair expectations for yourself. The inward facing critic is the more commonly discussed and understood, but the internal critic can take another form. That is the outward facing critic. Finds fault in everyone else, creating unrealistic standards for others, and having little to no leniency for mistakes, which is an intolerance that is often labeled as having high standards. Oh, that one is so, it's such, that is a really, I will tell you, that is like it's such a cruel adaptation. We'll get more into that in the fourth hub, about that's designed as a protection to push people away. Oof, yeah. This critic builds walls against genuine human connection to protect against disappointment and to defend against being hurt. Defend against being hurt. I want to take a moment for that, which is, it's so important in here to see the innocence behind these adaptations. You know, before they're, you know, it's like the book by the cover kind of thing. Before it's like, oh, here's the part of me that is like, oh, if people knew what I really think of people. If people knew, you know, it's like, oh my God, like walking down the street and thinking, oh my, I had some really good ones recently. And the problems are so funny that I was like, oh, this is so bad. You know, like, oh, or whatever. Like, not even so bad, but just, and the thing is with it is that it's not like stop doing that. It's more like stop thinking that this is real and look at the behavior pattern that it is arising from, which is that I am frazzled or that I'm tired or that I'm like I have needs that are not being met. And look at the innocence to find the hunger, to find where the emerging protector is coming from, instead of being like, oh well, here comes the real me. Yeah, I can fake it long enough and then all of a sudden the real me comes out. God, it's so sad. Oh, oh my gosh, baby, baby, baby. Having been overly shamed early in life, it knows shame as overwhelming, so it protects itself and tends to cut people off rather than work through the disappointment or hurt. The outward facing critic looks for flaws in others and then judges them as unworthy, a projection stemming from the deep intolerance it has for its own mistakes and for an inability to see faults as part of a whole person. For an inability to see faults as part of a full person. Shame, which is what it received as its third hub was growing and developing, engulfs the entire person. And feelings of unworthiness get triggered when the outward facing critic sees people achieve goals it envies. As a protection from difficult feelings of low self worth, it may discredit or target these folks. The outward facing inner critic is a protection of diminished esteem that has been weakened, damaged, and underdeveloped due to shaming. And, the thing is that why we are doing this practice that really requires this ongoing aspect of showing up for ourselves and slowly teasing the tangle, formerly called hairball. Just slowly. It's like, if you were to just make with this entire life of ours, that's an entire like a cosmic shift in like it's not like, it's like, oh, I need to untease the tangle, and the goal is that I just have one thread without a single knot, and it's like, yeah, that's not it either. Like these are it's not it. It's not it. It's not it. It's the nature of the practice of being with ourselves as we see this. We just slowly shift it and both accept it, but ultimately we're moving our life from an inside out direct experience model. And so what happens when we're actually tuned in and our adaptations, we're capable of actually evaluating these things and trusting our inner compass and understanding the difference between an adaptation and integrity. Then the nuance in this, like we can see it, and that we can self-govern. So alternately, inward-facing critics tend to second guess what they say and be very careful about avoiding embarrassment. Outward-facing critics tend to be more outspoken and to alienate others with their harsh delivery. Through socialization, folks may learn to consciously control the outward-facing criticism. But a few cruel words may slip out, shocking and hurting the recipient, and even surprising the person with the adaptation who wishes to leave their alienating tendencies behind. Because of this intolerance for mistakes and isolating behaviors, the outward-facing critic will often abandon or block relationships over misunderstandings that could typically be cleared up with an honest, albeit uncomfortable, conversation. Not always. And this is the thing where this needs to be self-governed, is that there are relationships that you don't want to have and you want to protect yourself against. So, yeah, not offering a black and white, like sort of like here's a here's a little bookmark with like the stepwise rules you need to follow. It's like, oh, okay, if this, if that, if this, if that. It's like you have it in you. Your integrity, the integral aspect of what you are, is perfectly capable of this. And that is the part of you that right now is like opening the aperture to evaluate this. And the thing is too, back to the thing, it's like what is the end game here, is that I have an outward facing critic. I don't have like my inner, I don't have a like, you're so stupid reflex. It's literally like, look at that, like, I wish I had some, like, I really, they're already gone. Like, some thoughts. Oh, I have one. I have a mean thought. Um, I was driving down the street. Oh my God. I was driving down the street and there was like I live in downtown Boston, and there was a woman, like, there, like, the homes in my area, are like pretty, like, extravagant, and there was this woman, it was like reaching between the bars, and like like playing with something, which I kind of was like, and my first thought was like, and what she was wearing, so immediately it was like, oh, it's got to be an Airbnb, and her outfit is just like not is just not like really dot dot dot, and so I thought, God, my thought, and I wish I could deliver it better. It was just really like, it was so mean, and it was like, it wasn't even like so mean. It was just the reflex to like of what I was choosing to see, instead of like, oh, there's somebody on vacation enjoying Boston, trying to, or maybe like, oh, maybe they need help. I mean, I was in a car, but like with their Airbnb, key, getting their key or whatever. And instead I was like, she's serving early aughts, like, remember that early 2000s clothing, you know? And so I had this like mean thought about this. I mean, it's just, but I mean, it's not her, it's me, you know? And so even with this, where it's like, like clearing out all aspects, where it's like, this is like a truth and like something that's like actionable or whatever. It's like, I'm not trying to obliterate any of the stuff. It does tend to go away, like over time. So I don't know. I don't know. But like, I think the point I want to, like, I'm trying to make here, so it's like serving early aughts Airbnb. Um, Yeah, is that it's like the thing of like when you see it being like, "Oh, that's that thing," and it's just being like, "Yeah, it's kind of funny, it's mean, and it's not for her. It would cause harm." And also, honestly, I know what that is, that reflex is. So, and being able to realize it's like, "Oh, because 'cause I'm tired. I'm a little tired." And the reality is that, I mean, like, as a, like, human being, that these experiences, like, it's just like, there's no, like, living in a vacuum and being like, "I'm perfectly rested, perfectly nourished, and, like, haven't been like, sort of like, emotionally activated." That these adaptations, I don't know to what extent they go away completely, and I don't know if I want it to go away because it's kind of funny. Like, honestly, it's kind of funny, and as long as I can like, kind of fence it off, no pun, or and understand that it has nothing to do with this person. And also the thing is being really mindful about not ruining the chance to see another human being, for like, to realize, like, it's just like a fake thing that's arising. Like, it's just this sort of like piece of material, and that human that's there, in, like, probably on vacation, trying to, maybe came back from a coffee on Newbury Street and is, um, trying to get their key to get back into their Airbnb because it's kind of humid out. Maybe they're like, oh, it's so gross out, um, that they're having their own experience, and that I'm not mistaking my catty comment as being something that I know about them, and even something that I'd use against them to hurt them, to protect myself. Because that's the other part, is like gathering these kind of like mean tweets, as, sort of like creating a wall of these like stones, of these like judgments and mean observations about people, so that if they were to show any type of, sign that they would be coming for my vulnerability, that I'd start throwing them at them. And that I'm like, yeah, there's plenty, I mean, honestly, like, yeah, it's not, like, and even the idea that it's like there'd be nothing that could be said that the serve couldn't be really effectively returned. Like this. I mean, honestly, maybe part of it is that, honestly, like, what I can say now is I appreciate a reserve on that, as if somebody were to be like, I don't know, whatever. But anyway, let's keep on reading. Oh God, it's so bad. Oh my God. A couple of days ago, I just remember like walking down the street and being like, okay, I kind of know something about my state of mind right now. Because I was, yeah. I mean, because I'm pretty funny as a person. And I remember thinking, like, "Hey, I'd be really great on like Twitter, or like, because I have all these like little pithy comments. And then, like, the few times I'd write them out, I'd be like, "Whoa." Like, they were just so brutal. And so that was, I mean, that was like, that was an awakening, a part of an awakening, or at least, like, I wouldn't call it like an awakening. Like, it was the opening of an aperture to see that it's like, wow, I have like very cutting comments, and they're sort of funny when I'm delivering them with this sort of like heedy har 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 thing. But when I'd write them in black and white, I would look at them and be like, good Lord, that is like devastating. And yeah, and over time, it wasn't like that just like broke me open. It was just more like, there's something going on here. And yeah, and through my own, I mean, the whole thing is demystifying it, like, instead of being like, this thought that's arising about this person represents some form of truth about them, versus it's an adaptation that's like kind of, that's like protecting me, and is potentially, harmful. And just like, it's kind of just that. I mean, I feel like that is like enough of an opening, is to like have that as knowledge and a realization. And like with the tingle, is like, it just slowly, as it teases open, is to like be like, okay, this is a reflex, and I have this belief around that, and I'm actually gonna kind of try to soften and disintegrate both of those, because those are informing my notion of a fixed reality, which isn't in fact a fixed reality. It's malleable. And then, the thing is, like, so to take the full tangle, like the hairball cycle, is that it's like, so here's this reflex to be protective, and be protective by being critical of others. And then a belief system of like, I have really high standards. And then this is this reality. And you want to talk about projection, like a projection of judging other people being something that winds up getting reflected back on oneself, and then going back into the cycle and reinforcing it. I mean, this is like a classic case for like a parinama tangle, because it's not just that, it's not just the part that I'm like, so I'm talking about right now, and like the woman, on the fence, where it's like this reflex, because the thing is even not to her, even for me to reflect that nastiness into the world, like nasty, like a nasty reflexive thought about someone, even if it's funny right now, even if you listen, oh, that's sort of so like funny or whatever. um like the people it attracts, like laughing with it, and even hurting other people maybe a little bit, because all of a sudden they're realizing how, mean I could possibly be, and judgmental. So maybe if that's like giving a tell on the fact that it's like, oh, there's this part of my inner life that's like very mean. So, you know, I think people can sort of sense that it's like that's something that could possibly be used upon me. And so that reflects a world back on oneself. So how people react as they start defending themselves. And then they're defending themselves. And it's like, see, people are fill in the blank. And then that like tangles, it's just like in that cycle, it's tightening. And it's so punishing. It's so punishing because it cuts off human connection, which the heart yearns for. And it cuts off connection to ourselves, which that like we just yearn for. So this hunger to connect, creates isolation, creates loneliness. And if isolation, loneliness was part of early experience, it's also like it's confusingly familiar. So that hunger for connection is confusing. All right, so we'll keep going. So alternatively, inward facing critics tend to, we already read that. Oh yeah, we already read that part. I'll keep going. So consequences for the outward facing critic. Criticism is a protective defense that keeps us separated from intimacy, esteem, and the things we truly desire. Initially, it may seem like the solution for the outer critic is softening the judgment of other people, but the true solution is softening our judgment of ourselves. The deep-seated inner critic is a holding pattern that predates the development of the prefrontal cortex in conscious thought. Awareness and the somatic exercises below bring us back into physical connection with our power and ultimately our worth. A process that continues in the fourth hub. So I will tell you that I have the great fortune of being someone who is invited into a lot of really extraordinary spaces. And I do not judge. So this outward facing critic, it's like I just like so in this way, yeah. And the ease that folks feel in terms of trusting me in their spaces, their extraordinary spaces, their personal spaces, and like opening up incredible experiences. I am hugely confident that an important aspect of this is the comfort and the ease of having, we'll say like a guest who there's this sense, I mean, the thing is like with the hairball, the tangle nay hairball, is that people can feel it. There's a tension, there's an observation, there's this like little slippages of comments. And when our relationship with ourself, we've worked on that. It's just like it's absent. Unless we're for me, unless I'm like really tired, and I can see that happening but I know what it is. So, so it's like managing it. So anyhow, so talk back to the inward facing critic. So when we self-deprecate as, say, labeling ourselves idiotic We're ingesting small drops of poison that accumulate over time and can further damage our confidence and self esteem. Funny thing, I was just thinking about self deprecation this morning, and I was thinking about, God darn it, can we stop praising self deprecation as being a form of high self awareness? I was like, because comedians who will like self deprecate, who will kind of like tell stories where they kind of demean themselves publicly, and especially like with women when they're talking about like the fat on their bodies, and kind of doing this like really like primitive shame work, that it's like that they use themselves as kind of like this, like, isn't it so funny that I'm so gross? And, I was thinking, I was like, we should normalize, instead of self-deprecating, like, because the thing is, it's cringe humor. It's like to be like, oh my God, I can't, that's like really hard to look at. And, I was thinking, I was like, why don't, like, what about cringe self-acceptance? To cringe, so like to really accept something about yourself to the point that it's like it's like literally creates transformation in the people that, that the audience, to see you just go, like, to have like a sort of, like that, instead of it being, look how disgusting I am, with like self-deprecation. So I've been thinking about that when I was driving this morning. So, okay. So an inward facing critic tends to be part of, turning the page, of a shrinking third hub. And the outward facing critic is more common with the inflating, but not always. When we don't know it's the internalized voice of an early criticizer, and that it can go, this voice will conduct one-sided conversations of assertions that don't get questioned. These harsh assessments act as vehicles for shame. And once we start to notice, we see that we can often see that there can often be a lack of specificity. Shame thrives in nebulous conditions. Shame thrives in nebulous conditions. So call this critic out and ask it to be more clear. Start a conversation with this voice the next time you hear it by saying, I see you. When speaking to this internalized voice, ask for specifics and for direct experience instead of generalizations and abstractions. If you hear it say, you're such a complete idiot, or that's disgusting, put it on notice. Talk back to it. Ask it, what exactly do you mean when you say I'm an idiot? Or, what exactly do you mean when you say I'm disgusting? No one is a complete idiot. Some actions and behaviors may fit the description, but canceling an entire person over one bad move causes a lot of pain for everyone involved. There's always an opportunity and possibility for redemption. Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, in writing this, you notice this does not go into like, and then, because the internalized voice like falls apart with a really small amount of being called out. Speak up for yourself to it. Turn it into a two-sided conversation. It is not you. The voice isn't you. So start speaking to it and standing up for yourself against it. Say, what exactly do you mean by that? I want some clear examples. It's like, oh, I ate something, I spilled food all over myself. You're disgusting. It's like, tell me more about that. What's disgusting about that? Like, well, it's messy. It's like, okay, messy. What's bad about messy? Tell me about messy. It's like, well, it means that and it kind of gets tired. It gets tired really fucking fast. It's kind of like it gives up. It's like, okay, I get it. It's like, ugh, ugh. It's like, you're such an idiot. Tell me more about that. Like, where was I such an idiot? It's like, well, you didn't, you forgot to write down this note, or you forgot to finish this thing on time, or you forgot. So it's like, okay, that sounds like one thing. So I'll concede I did something wrong. But you are such an idiot. You're saying everything about me is an idiot. I'm contesting that. I can do things that have the quality of being stupid, but I'm not stupid. I can do the things, like, honestly, I can do things that have the qualities of being, like, I don't know, that like disgusting. It's like, spill something, like do something, like whatever, say something. I can do the quality of saying something dumb, like saying something out of turn. And it's kind of like, yeah, okay, I made a mistake there. And it's kind of like, tell me more about that mistake, like why that is such a big deal. It's like, well, that's gonna mean that that. It's like, okay, well, I can handle that. I'm very capable of handling that. So give me more. I'm gonna need more to really validate this case, that I'm such a, it goes, well, you remember that time? It's like, remember that time. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. Remember that time. Your case is that I am this thing. So it's not remembering it. You need to provide a case that substantiates the notion that there is something inherently wrong with me all the time. Can't make it. You can't make it. So you talk to this voice. You cannot make this case because it is absolutely not true. It's like, yep. I'll take responsibility for the action. And also it's kind of like, yeah, I don't know if it really bothers me that much that I did something stupid, or that I looked stupid, or people, it's like, all right. So yeah. Yes. I'm going to read the next. No, it's too much time. I've done too much time. Okay. So next time we're going to do judgment, criticism, and feedback. And then we're kind of like steering through this. We've got a page or two. Might even be able to get it done. I might be able to get it done in the next day or two. So that'd be great. So all right, this is a long one. I appreciate that you stayed with it. I really appreciate any interaction. If you're finding this, yeah, I appreciate you. And I will see you in the next one. I'm looking forward to it. All right, bye for now.